are here ready to ask. So thank you.
Thanks, Senator Klobuchar. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate so much that you all are here. It's an important conversation to have, and we are grateful for your testimony. You know, the chairman said he just couldn't square why some people would purchase guns or have guns. What I can't square is why we have prosecutors and judges who are letting criminals back out on the streets and not holding people who have committed crimes. And that's letting people that shouldn't have a gun get a gun. So let me ask, Mr. Lindley, let me start with you. Do you know who Jack Wilson is?
Actually, I do not.
Okay, you don't. Elijah Dickin?
I'm not really a name person, so no.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, these are both Good Samaritans that exercised their right to carry a firearm, and as a result were able to intervene during a mass shooting, one in Texas, one in Indiana, and they saved untold lives. These are the law-abiding citizens that we want to be carrying guns and whose right to do so is protected by the Second Amendment. What about Tyree Reynolds? You know that name? Christian Wingfield, do you know that name?
They're familiar to me, but not in detail.
Not in detail. Well, they should be. These are criminals who committed violent crimes using firearms, and then they were released back to their communities as a result of the radical left's soft on crime policies and the Soros-backed bail reform. So they got out. They went on to participate in shootings. One of these individuals left a child dead. So this is the disparity. It is outrageous, absolutely outrageous. Instead of prosecuting violent criminals who are committing these crimes, that many on the left are focused on criminalizing gun ownership for law-abiding citizens. Violent crime is raging across this country. We hear about it in communities. Every year I visit with each of our 95 counties in the state of Tennessee. I visit with law enforcement in those counties. And what we hear is with gangs proliferating, with drugs flooding this country because of the cartels, because of that open border, crime is on the rise. And there seems to be a penchant, though, from my colleagues across the aisle to restrict self-defense options. Senator Graham talked about this at the outset. This is a right. The Second Amendment is a right. Senator Lee just mentioned it's the only right, that you've got to go talk to a local official and get a license in order to exercise that right. But we have plenty of people that are alive today because Jack Wilson and Elijah Dickin chose to exercise that right, and in exercising that right, they saved a lot of lives during a time with a mass shooting event. And we ought not to have people that try to restrict self-defense options for Good Samaritans. They should be spending their time trying to get violent criminals off the street. Ms. Ware, I'd like to come to you for a moment. I led an amicus brief last month to support the lawsuit challenging ATF pistol brace rule. This imposes potential criminal liability on millions of Americans for exercising their Second Amendment rights. The ATF claims that this rule is necessary because arm braces transform a pistol into a short barrel rifle. Now, when I'm back at home in Tennessee and I'm talking with a lot of our veterans and our disabled combat veterans, they talk to me about why they rely on these pistol braces to be able to operate a firearm, to operate that gun. So can you explain how our disabled combat veterans use pistol braces and the devastating impact that the ATF rule would have on their ability to exercise their Second Amendment rights?
Senator, thank you for that question. Pistol braces work in such a way, so if you understand a handgun, which generally speaking, you can hold with one hand. A lot of these disabled veterans cannot use that second hand, for example, as a additional stabilizer, right? So they have trouble using that with one hand. The way that the pistol brace works is that it extends a lot of them down the arm and either allow the person with that brace to brace it against their inner arm or to even strap it into their forearm to give them additional stability.
So it's a safety mechanism.
Correct, yes.
It stabilizes the handgun.
Correct. And to the extent that someone is not disabled, they would have a plethora of other options. Again, whether this is a criminal, for example, they don't need to rely on a stable brace. They can just use a handgun or, for example, use a rifle. This exclusively is something that is beneficial to law-abiding but disabled citizens. And it might be used by people who are not disabled, but that is primarily a benefit to them, while at the same time, again, would-be criminals have a plethora of alternatives to accomplish their criminal goals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Blackburn. I want to thank Chair Durbin and Ranking Member Graham for holding this hearing. There's no denying that we have a